We'll be discussing segment bisectors as well as the midpoint formula in this video. The word midpoint has point in it. So by definition, it's a point on a segment that divides the segment into two congruent parts. So if a point is a midpoint of a segment, then it divides the segment into two congruent parts. So in the above figure, you have segment AB, and M is the midpoint. It's a point in the middle. And it divides segment AB such that AM is congruent to MB. And vice versa, or the converse, if a point divides a segment into two congruent parts, then we can call it the midpoint. So you notice that we switch the if part with the then part, the hypothesis part with the conclusion part. The word bisect means to cut. So sect is cut, to cut into two equal parts. And so a segment bisector is something, a point, line, or array. So point, line, actually we can say point, line, ray, or line segment, as opposed to just a line that extends infinitely in both directions. A line segment, again, is a piece of the line. So it can be any one of those four things that bisects the segment. So it's important to keep in mind informally that a segment bisector, kind of think of it as the knife. It's the thing doing the cutting. So midpoint formula should be review for you, but if you're given two coordinate points, A, where A has the coordinates x1, y1, and B, where B has the coordinate x2, y2, to calculate the point that's in the middle between A and B, we'd calculate the midpoint using the formula that you discovered, x1 plus x2 over 2, or y1 plus y2 over 2. And you'll oftentimes hear me refer to this as the averages of your x's, your x coordinates, or your y's. And that simply just means that if you find the average of two given numbers, you add the two numbers and divide by 2. So if I'm given the coordinate A and B and asked to find the midpoint of segment AB, then the midpoint would be the sum of my x's divided by 2 and the sum of my y's divided by 2. So we simplify the top, we get 3/2 and 1/2. And we in this math class, as well as your future math class, it's fine to leave your answer in simplified improper form, which means you do not have to write the 3/2 as 1.5. Okay, so example 2, you're given, this time you have segment JK. Let's draw a picture. So segment JK, and in between that, you're given that the midpoint is 1, 4. One endpoint J is -3, 2. Find the coordinates of the other endpoint. So the other endpoint, we don't know what the x is and we don't know what the y is. So setting up a formula similar to what we have above, we know that the averages of the x values of the endpoints, so -3 plus x divided by 2, should be equal to the x value of the midpoint. So we would have set up two different formulas here. The other one would be the average of the y values for j and k, 2 plus y, divided by 2 is equal to the y value of the midpoints. So here, if you remember from algebra, we would cross multiply, which this can be written as a fraction, 1/1 and 4/1. I'm going to have us pause here and then solve the rest of the way for that. So hopefully you got the answer for the coordinate point K is 5, 6.